Welcome to the last session of this Marriage is a Private Affair by Chinua Achebe. So we have understood a few concepts like how marriage is in the modern context, how to identify the clashes of the Orthodox and the modern Black community, and we have also found out a few differences in the ethnic values and the cultural values of the modern and the traditional. Finally, to ask a question, should marriage be a private affair or not? That is the main question we have to raise. And this would be the session outcome. So, the explanation of the story we have, what we have understood so far is that there is a conflict in the story which revolves around Nenika and Neni. And we know that they both belong to a different community, Igbo community, Nenika, and cosmopolitan lifestyle of Neni. And we also understood that Okoke's disapproval of his son's marriage to a girl who is outside their own ethnic group. So these were the reasons why he disapproved Neni, and he also says that Nenika is from the Igbo tribe who marries Neni, an Igbo woman and a Christian girl. The concept here is to the dismay of Okoke, he rejects Onini for multiple reasons, I think, which we have discussed in the previous session. That is, she was a wicked murderess, or she was very clever to capture her husband, and she did not give the rational power to think for Nenika so that he could make any decisions. Were all the things which they decided that Neni was capable of. So these are the multiple reasons why Okoke had refused to take up Neni as his daughter-in-law. And not only that, she is a Christian, but she is also a teacher. Okay, and in Okoke's understanding, and according to the Igbo understanding, it is told that in the Christianity, women should not be teachers. That is, they should never talk. Yeah, that's the main concept here. And moreover, Okoke had intended for Nenika to marry a girl from a small village. So that the basic storyline goes like this, because Okoke is so much disturbed that he cannot accept the rebellion attitude of his son. Because according to the Igbo community, Okoke had all the liberty to decide whom his son is going to get married, and therefore Okoke decides Ugoye to be his daughter-in-law. But Nenika, who's been living in the cosmopolitan city, thinks that he need not succumb to the traditional values. So, because of Igbo tradition, usually dictated that fathers would arrange the marriages of their sons, and in the Igbo culture. So, this is what we've understood. And in spite of all this, Nenika goes ahead with the marriage. In spite of his father telling him so many times, these are the culture, these are the values, these are the ethnic practices, we should not be breaking. But in spite of all this, Nenika breaks it and decides that he is going to get married to Nene. And finally, Okoke disowns his son, and we find that as the story goes on, we find that Okoke disowns Nenika, and he says that he would not see his son for the next 5 years. Okay, that's what the story continues there, and but the story has to go on. There is yet to be. Uh, the community in which Nenika and Neni are living, in spite of their prejudice, okay, the village, in spite of the prejudices, the community starts gradually accepting Nenika for her generosity, okay, her behavior. So gradually they they accept her as a Igbo lady, woman, and finally they all come to a common understanding that they are the most happiest couple in the family, in the Igbo community, because she can do the work faster than anyone else, and she can manage things in a better way. So these are the things which they get to know. And they eventually, the whole village, they win the heart of the whole village, that is Nenika and Neni, and they declare that they are the happiest couple in the family, in the community. This message also reaches Okoki. Yeah, this message also reaches Okoki, where he says he's got nothing to do with it, and he always displayed a bad temper whenever Nenika's name was uttered. Okay, so people refused to talk anything about Nenika. So the moment his name was mentioned, he would just get a bad temper there. And by tremendous determination, he put his son's name and even his daughter's name behind the mind there. Okay, back of his mind. He never brought it to the forefront. Finally, this was going on. The strain had nearly the strain on his mind was too much, but he fought with it and he won. Okay, he stopped speaking with the village people and he just kept for himself. So this is what you can find how Okoke was suffering within himself. Then one day he finally gets a letter from his daughter-in-law Neni, and in spite of having so much of vengeance and all this, he just slides through the whole letter, and then he perfectionally gets the sudden expression, and you can find there is a sudden change on his face, and then he started reading the letter very, very carefully. That is, the content of the letter was like this. Neni had written that she has two sons, and from the day they learned that they have a grandfather who's staying in the Igbo village, they find it important. They want to be taken there. Okay, they want to see their grandfather, and every time they insist, and she has to give some or the other excuses. And she says, I find it very difficult to tell them that you will not see them. Okay, so Neni has written in the letter, I beg you, please allow the kids to come and see you there. And she says, she makes it very clear that I will not come to the village, but Nenika will come and leave the kids in the village. So finally, it so happens that uh, Nenika and Neni are dumbstruck. Okay, so it's a curious mental process which happens over there. Fine, and it's very conveniently, Okoki is. You can find out that he is unable to draw lines with what is happening in the whole situation there. Okay, and there is a huge mental process which is imagining, which is happening in his mind there. And finally he say he needs a lot of resolution. It's been built up, and everything is falling down there. Okay, and and it was like killing himself for all these days. So Okoke has been dying all these days, and finally he must give in. Okay, he tried his best. He tried to struggle. He tried to perceive. He tried to lean against the window and not look at the door. And he did all kinds of things. But it so happened that the sky was overcast and it was heavy with the black clouds, and the wind was heavy, and it was going to rain at any point of time there. And the dust was carrying all the dried leaves there. And it was one of the rarest of all the occasions. Even the nature takes a hand in the human flight there. And very soon it began to rain. It started to rain there, and for the first time, okay, it came down so sharp drops and accompanied by a lightning and a thundering. So the rain was very hard there, but he knew he was not fighting the losing battle. So he was very firm in his decision. He tried his best to keep his mettle, not to give up, but his mind immediately returned to the children. But of all this fight, he could not control to look at the small two kids standing near he's just imagining the small two kids waiting near the door to be let in. So this is a beautiful imagination. I think this particular scene you can see in many of the Indian cinemas, where this is how the unity, or the union between the father or the grandfather and the grandsons happen there. So it's raining, it's thundering, it's heavy, okay, and the kids are standing there, and his heart is melting. His heart is melting, and he just worries. Okay, Okoke finally worries. I think it's a beautifully a sentimental line there. Okay, he just worries that he might die without making it up for them. Okay, I think that's the beauty of the whole short story by Chinua Achebe, where he feels that he might die without letting the kids come inside his house. So finally, you find of all the fight he had with his son Nevnika, but the moment he watches the grandchildren standing out, he just melts like a butter there. So this is what is the whole story. So finally, he says, I would, okay, and shut out from them. How could by any for any reason should I be shut out from this house? And that night he hardly slept, and the vague fear that he might die without making it up to them. So he had a strong fear that day. He could not sleep, that he would not make up to his kids, that is the grandkids. So you can understand the climax is that there is a reunion of the grandchildren and the grandfather. So with this, we come to the end of the whole short story by Chinua Achebe, Marriage is a Private Affair. So it's proven beyond expectation that it is a private affair. So a few MCQ questions. The short story about Nenika and Nini had to go to the village in the heart of the Igbo community and declared that they were the most happiest couple because of their perseverance and their generosity. And the next question would be, Okoke, by a curious mental process, imagined that the kids were standing sad and forsaken under the harsh weather, shut out from his house. So he was not letting them inside the house. So, with this, we come to the end of the explanation of Marriage is a Private Affair by uh, Chinua Achebe, and you can read the whole story on the text Insights BCU, and also rewatch this movie two states. Thank you.